Unfortunately, we had a couple of guys just with just minor sickness today that didn't train, so we'll have to wait on a couple before we finalise the side.
What sort of sickness can you say?
Just a sore throat, So nowadays with obviously the current environment, we're really mindful of players coming in if they've got any symptoms, so they stayed away. So Crocker was one of those, and Shane McAdam. So both guys who are in the team, so we've just got to keep an eye on how that balances up. If they're unavailable, we're hoping that they'll be available, and we're reasonably confident.
Is that all Slaney needs to do? Is that true today?
Yeah, Slaney was really close last week, really close. It's incredible how quickly he's been able to get the ball in his hands, get the physicality back. We had to hold him back a little last week. When I say last week, but whatever night we played. So we were really confident he'd play this game.
What's it mean to get him back? I mean, obviously it's purely on-field, but it's leadership as well. It's looked like you needed a bit of on-field leadership in that midfield area as well.
Yeah, and it's been a bonus for Rory to be able to watch the footy, work with his players off-field. He's been really strong in that area. Speaking to the young mids, working with Lairdy on how he goes about it, and we've seen some real growth in Lairdy on ball. Part of that's been our leadership that Rory's shown off-field. So to get back in there, he's just chomping at the bit to get back in and join those guys, and bring that slightly different dynamic that Slaney brings, which is pretty hard at it, and lead by example.
I was watching him on the boundary on Tuesday night. He was riding every single jersey. It seems like he really has just embraced that role.
Yeah, he's done it well. We would love to have got him in the coach's box or even on the bench, but just because of the protocols we couldn't. But yeah, he's sitting in the race at most of the games, and he would have been out there if we allowed him to. But he's done really well since being out of the game. We look forward to him coming back.
What about Daniel Nixie? Is he overcome his sore spots? He obviously missed last week.
Yeah, he has. Yep. So trained again today. He had a reasonable week. Obviously got himself right. It was really a management thing with Tales, like we've done with a number of others across the last month or so. So yeah, Tales will come back into the side. It's one I can give you.
How disappointing to obviously lose Tommy Duday for the season? Came back from the hammy and then obviously re-aggravated a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tough one, really. A hard one to swallow because he's done everything that you want from a young leader of the club. So from a personal point of view, I was so disappointed to see it. But in saying that, he'll be back stronger and bigger, when he does come back, because he's pushed through a lot more adversity than just this challenge. It'll see out the season, unfortunately, for him. But we talk about Slaney and what he was able to do. Well, Tommy's got that in spades. So I know he'll lead in his own way now off field. But yeah, from a personal point of view, it was tough for him.
And Tommy Lynch is still a chance to play this season.
Tom Lynch, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Tom, hopefully 2 or 3 for Lynchy with that hamstring. So another one that was come out. There's a few of them coming in the game. It's challenging for some of the guys, but for Lynchy, we expect to see him back.
Did you get a problem with Tommy in hindsight?
Tommy Duday?
By playing?
No, not at all.
What gives you that confidence? It's the same hamstring and his history of injury. Exactly.
We're confident that we've got the right people in the right place that are making the decisions around the medical side. I don't want to make too many comments on that, but Tommy was progressing really well. We've looked at the mechanism of how he did it, and it was an unusual circumstance where he's really lunging around and rotating. I mean, there's a fair bit in that, but we've got some very good operators in that area.
I think it's Doc Martin come out and said he's fearful that he'll be something really long-term given its nature. I know it's not the field, but...
Who's saying that?
I think it's Doc Peter Larkins.
Yes.
Said he's pretty fearful that given what it is, that it could be a graft and all those types of things. I know it's not your area, but from what you do know, is there confident that it's just a minor thing?
I've just got to be really mindful that I'm not an expert in that field, so I really can't comment around the actual medical side of things. So.
Obviously, the condensed fixture I think is going to come out later today. Is there any lessons that you can take 17, just in terms of pairing, managing, rotating, support, etc.
Yeah, there's not a lot we'd change because we were managing players. We probably feel if we hadn't managed and we'd received some soft tissues, then you'd look back on it and say, wow, this is something we need to look at. But we've done a fair bit of management throughout. We haven't performed win-loss, but at the same time, we've seen, there's been some ups and downs throughout. North Melbourne was a game we didn't perform in. It was an away game, travelling the same day. But then we've been able to go away and perform in other games where we've travelled. So it's been varied. There's been no standouts where we'd say, well, we'd change that going forward.
And is it something the players and you just have to adapt to?
Yeah, and I think they've done it really well. And we'll do it again this week. Sunday we're up at, I think, 5:30 where we meet at the airport. So the challenge is there, but the guys they've embraced that really well. We'll do the same for whatever comes. I think we get the schedule out in the next few days for the next month.
Four quarter performances were a big focus last week, and a similar fade out on Tuesday night. Have you pounded the finger on what's consistently going wrong in that last patch of the game?
We have, and we don't feel it's just the last quarter of the game or the last patch. Definitely v Melbourne, we dropped away in a few key areas in and around the contest. On the weekend, we felt the game was. There's a fair bit in not putting scoreboard pressure on your opponents. Being able to own a game and get momentum in a game. We felt like we had opportunities right throughout that first half where, unfortunately we didn't take them. We allowed the opposition to stay in the competition, so we win the game. They were able to get that momentum later in the second half, and we probably had our opportunities and didn't take them early. So it wasn't so much about the way we finished. It was more about the way we let ourselves down, really. We were our own worst enemies, being able to score when we had opportunity.
So what's the main thing you're hoping to see against the Bulldogs?
Well, the given has to be our contest. We've been able to now bring that for a couple of weeks. We had a blip last time we went away and played North Melbourne, so we want the guys to go out and compete. We come off the ground, we're happy when we compete. Now we had some work-ons this week on being able to finish and get a bit of polish in our play. We've obviously got to score more. That's one thing that we're just not doing at the moment. We're not putting the ball between the big sticks. So you don't win too many games scoring 40-odd points. That's a focus area that we'd love to see improvement in.
You've obviously got a midfielder coming yourself, but someone like Gray and Miller, do they need extra attention?
Yeah, they do. As far as a tagging role or so on, we haven't made a decision in that space. We haven't locked anything in, but yeah, both fantastic footballers. It makes it hard when you play sides like this where they're reasonably well balanced, but I mean, Bontempelli obviously stands out as a game winner. Gray's obviously a super player as well.
A couple of sides like the Bulldogs, then you've also got players like Adelaide, and that midfield. You pick one and then the other has a bit.
It's most weeks, unfortunately. It's most weeks. No, last week we, obviously coming in, we looked at Sidebottom and how influential he is in games. But you're right. Sometimes you can take your focus too much onto one opponent, and it can pull your structures apart. It can change the way you play. So we're mindful of that, and we just want to be balanced as a group. We've got some guys who play really well on the defensive side of the game in that midfield, but we want to attack the opposition as well and challenge them in our own way.
Lance, do you feel like you'd like to take as a midfielder for the rest of the season, given the job you've seen now?
Yeah, we'd love to, because he's shown that he can play the position. He's really taken that on well and he's performed really well. And what it does too is it frees us up a little. We played Smith at half back on the weekend, as well as McKay there. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility to play other players in other positions as well. And what Lairdy adds is that dynamic, speed and 1 metre test on ball. I think he's shown that it's a position he's embracing. He's really enjoying it. So hopefully his form continues. Brad's progressing well. I mean, after a small slip on a porch, which was disappointing for him, just set him back slightly. No, he's moving reasonably well on the oval. We're hopefully getting back in the next couple.
And Miller similar?
Junior the same. It's a bit of a test for him. He's gone through quite an operation. a large screw put through the foot. So he's getting a little bit of soreness, but that's natural. So he's just working through now. He's up and running, moving around, and we're just monitoring that. So he's almost a day on, day off as he eases his way back in. Yeah, there's a lot of commentary about it. We've ongoing discussions, both Brad and I will chat. I mean, it's both sides of the coin. We want to work out exactly what he's looking to do longer term, and he's talking to us in the same manner. At the moment, his focus is 100% on getting himself back so he can play some footy, get himself right. So we've sort of put some of those talks on hold just between he and I. But I know there's ongoing discussions with his management and our list management.
Do you have an inclination what he's likely to do or what the club is likely to do?
Well, he's given an inclination that he'd like to stay. And in our conversations, we're open to talk through that. It'll just be how it pans out for him and how his management and where our list management goes.
Does what he wants to do in the future, the club want to do in the future, have any bearing on how you manage him on the field for the rest of the season?
No, not at all. No. We'll look to play our strongest team we can. If he's in that, then he comes straight back in. We feel he is.